What's the most desperate thing you've done to avoid paying for something? This was back in 2008, when professors still required physical books for research papers, and Wikipedia wasn't acceptable as a source. I was a junior, struggling to pay for basically everything. Tuition, rent, even ramen noodles were a luxury some weeks. For my final project, I needed to write a 40-page research paper. The professor was old school, demanded at least 15 primary sources, all from actual books. No internet sources allowed, so I did what any desperate student would do. I checked out basically half the history section. The plan was simple. Read everything over spring break, take detailed notes, return the books, write the paper. Easy, right? Wrong. Life happened. My roommate got mono, and I had to cover his shifts at our campus job. Before I knew it, finals week was here, and those books were still stacked on my desk like a monument to my procrastination. Then the email came. Outstanding library fees, $127.50. Books must be returned and fees paid before transcript release. I stared at that number in horror. The late fees were 50 cents per book per day. I didn't have $127. I barely had $12. And if I couldn't get my transcript, I couldn't register for next semester. My financial aid would be suspended. Game over. I called the library in a panic. Hi, I got this email about late fees, but I think there might be a mistake. The librarian was not sympathetic. Let me check. Yes, you have 18 books checked out under your name. They were due March 15th. It's now April 2nd. The fees are correct. But what if I return them today? The fees still apply from the original due date. You can return the books at the circulation desk and pay at the same time. I hung up and stared at my stack of books. That's when the idea hit me. What if I never officially checked these books out in the first place? I spent the next hour researching the library's inventory system. Turns out they only did a full shelf audit once per semester, right before finals. If books were missing, they'd just assume students had them checked out. But if books were exactly where they belonged on the shelves, the next morning, I loaded all 18 books into 2 huge duffel bags. I looked like I was moving out of my dorm room. I waited until the library opened at 8 a.m., when only the morning shift librarian was working and most students were still asleep. I walked in like I owned the place, grabbed a cart, and spent the next 2 hours carefully returning every single book to its exact location. The hardest part was acting casual. I'd grab a few random books from nearby shelves, put my books back, then reshelve the random ones too, just to look like a normal student doing research. By 10 a.m., every book was back in place. I walked out of the library, went back to my dorm, and waited. The next day, I called the library again. Different librarian this time, thankfully. Hi, I got this weird email yesterday about late fees for books I returned weeks ago. I'm pretty sure there's been some kind of mistake with your system. Oh no, let me check that for you. What's your student ID? I gave her my number and waited, trying to sound confused and slightly annoyed rather than terrified. That's strange. Let me walk over to the stacks and see if I can find these books. Can you hold for just a minute? Those were the longest 5 minutes of my life. I was imagining campus security showing up at my door, academic probation, getting kicked out of school for library fraud. Finally, she came back. I'm so sorry about this mix-up. It looks like all of your books are actually here on the shelves where they belong. Our system must have glitched. I'm clearing all the fees from your account right now. I hung up and literally collapsed with relief. I had just gaslit an entire university library into believing their own records were wrong.